Greetings, everyone. I'm Doug Marcaida. Welcome to another episode of Sharp Talk. Now, you may know me as an edge impact weapon specialist or a judge in fortune fire, but I am a Kali martial artist. And with me today is Tomas, my co-partner in crime from Tactical Tavern. Hey, Tomas, how you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us on. I'm excited to talk to you today about changing grips.
Changing grips. That's it. Let's switch it up. Changing grips. Get a grip on it. But
Get
then
it.
again, there's a reason to let go. Just let it go.
I
Now,
like
why
that.
switching that?
Hey, hey.
So
I
when we're
like it.
talking switching grips, we're talking about knife grips, right? Why would anyone take their time to switch grips from a particular pattern to another way of holding? That's why we don't do that, because you can drop it.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're excited to continue the conversation about grips. Specifically, we're changing it up. Literally, how to change your grip. We're going to talk about some tips and tricks to help you and dispel some movie myths. With that said, let's cut into it. All right, Doug, I see in the movies all the time, like Westerns or like they're tossing it back and forth. Is that even practical? Is that just for show? What are we doing?
All right, first up, why does one change your grip with a blade? Because we can. That's the first thing. Second, because it's a lot of fun to switch your grip. And a lot of people fidget with their blades when they're training with it. Why? They are one with the blade, they're having fun with it. Now, when we're talking about switch, you got to understand, is it practical to switch? Well, let's talk about it from the point of view as strategy, right? When would I switch grips? Well, maybe from this particular grip, I'm in a thrusting mode. If I switch it to a different grip, I'm into a thrusting mode from a different grip, from a forward grip to reverse grip. But a lot of people just switch grips for different reasons. They'll say, sometimes I could injure my hand, so I have the ability to use and continue using that. Well and good. But in reality, when you pressure test this, when you're faced with adrenaline and fear and everything that's going on, switching grips is not that easy because even even if you're not switching grips and you're holding on to your blade, the blades end up on the floor. They end up getting some slippery. They end up on, well, you can see some are stuck on or whatever. There's so many reasons why. So when they talk about switching grips, it's a lot of times being practiced in a relaxed manner, in a safe place. I can do all these different grip knives because I am not in danger. There's no adrenaline. There is no pressure testing with all the things I'm doing with the blade, right? So I have a lot of fun with it, but there is no stress. And there is really no reason if I'm trying to save my life and stay away from that. Having said that, it is a great skill for finger dexterity. It is a great skill to develop my dominant side of working with it to my less than dominant side for whatever reason that you're doing. And yes, even a lot of us, if I'm over here, oh, I need to do this, I can just do that. Oh, I need to cut it this way. Let me switch. I'm going to do this in times of non-stress, but even no practical use. If I need to pick something up here, if I need to move my hand, use my left hand or my right hand, I can switch. The beauty of it is because of the play. We train it as we're playing. In the beginning, you start off with trainers. Then you have to go live blade because a lot of times I may be practicing to switch here and I'm cutting and I'm not getting cut with a trainer. In reality, go, whoa, edge awareness is so important all the time. That's why when you're doing all this, you realize, well, did I really need to switch all this when I was in front of it? Now I just cut myself, right? Instead, it's really about play and familiarizing yourself with the tool that you have in there. But in reality, you probably will just hold on to it in times of stress, adrenaline being there, and fear. You'll do that. But you have the option. And that's the beauty of it.
I think that's really important to point out that, especially when you're training, you're having fun in a safe environment. So you can practice that. You're increasing your dexterity. But if it does get into that combative application, when I've done like live sparring with blades and even like the taser blades that you get zapped, you get that feedback. Typically, the hand switches come into play when you're in a clinch. It's not for a duel. You're not going to be out here dueling, trying to like snipe shots and then switch to a reverse grip. It's normally for really, really close quarters. I've had it where like my partner is like trapped my arm and I've dropped the knife and then got them on the backside. So I think, like you said, it's important to have those options. Get that dexterity, get that skill set, then incorporate it into your training.
A little bit of Game of Thrones in there, huh?
Hey, let's
So
go.
there's a lot of things in there. The danger of it all. When I'm switching grips, especially when we're sparring, one of it, the reasons why we're able to do that, because it's hidden. It's a sleight of hand. I'm grappling with someone. I'm behind. My knife is here. They shoot in. Then I can use my other hand because they don't see the switch. Anything of grappling or dropping, once you make anything dislodge from your hand, that's just another second for losing the knife altogether. When we talk about switching grips, it's about passing it on to make sure it is passed on correctly, like passing on the baton when you see the relay race in Olympians, right? It's the same thing. It's got to be tactile. It's got to be something that I'm able to control when I'm doing this. If I can close my eyes and I can transfer the blade, and it's a great pass on over there, and I have that comfortability of that, it's good. Now, if I drop the knife, that's like, well, I'm lucky because I'm able to do that, but I'm not sure even if I drop on the blade itself, right? So dropping the knife, risky move because you can't see it. You can't feel it when it disengages from my hand to the other hand. There is no 100% that it's going to land properly in there. So passing it on and tactile feel is the first thing that you're going to learn when we're doing knife switching. Now, knife switching can be brought into two areas. There's from one hand to the other hand, or switch grip within the same hand. And we'll talk about that shortly.
What are some tips that you can give us from single hand switching before we get into double hand? How would one go about even manipulating that grip?
Well, the first thing about that is to understand your hand. What makes the hand hold on to the blade? You have your fingers. Your fingers are definitely the things that hold on to this blade. So most of the time, it's always the index finger and the thumb that hold on to the blade. These are your support casts, but they can also be used to help flip the blade in different ways as you're playing with that, right? This is one of those things that I'm talking about, that it's so much fun once you get into it. Now, how do you manipulate the blade? Basically, it's a safe transfer between forward grip to reverse grip. Inside blade, outside blade is all used. What makes that happen? My index finger and my thumb. The first transition from a forward grip to reverse grip is what I call a pinch. It's like pinching with the blade. This holds on, and then you can rotate the blade from that pinch. I can rotate to a reverse edge, and as I go back, you can see the pinch point right here, back to a forward grip, forward to reverse. Forward to reverse. So the easiest way to practice this is just that pinch grip that you're doing that. And then, of course, the rest of the fingers are going to help adjust it. What's the adjustment coming from? Your thumb is usually the one, and the index finger are helping you with your adjustments. Because as soon as I go this, my thumb now is that point. That's why we are humans with tools, because we have the opposing thumb to help everything happen. What makes it hard to let go of this is always remember, when you're closed on this, these guys are the ones who are going to hinder any kind of switching. So a lot of times, as you manipulate the blade, as you move the blade, these fingers have to be out of the way so that the blade can easily be manipulated. And what to do with that is you get a trainer and simply study your fingers. Everybody is different in how they move the fingers. And all I say is, just do it in such a way that you're constantly able to manipulate the blade with your fingers, and just pay attention to how it works. Then later on, once you have all this tactile feel of switching from one grip to the other, right? So basically, the main things that you can do with this is I can switch from forward grip with a pinch grip to reverse grip. The thumb basically just tells me I can put it blade out or blade in. Same thing with a forward grip, blade out, blade in, blade out. All that is just because my index finger and thumb doing all the work for me. Now, once you have the ability to do that, pressure test it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. What I'm going to point out is a couple of subtleties that might help people, that helped me when I first started playing with my blades. One, if I just hold this here in a pinch grip straight up, it's not moving. You do need that weight, that tip forward to allow it, and you have to play with that pressure of the tip. Keep in mind the handle as well, right? So if you have a really long handle on here and you go to get it, it's going to hit the palm of your hand. So you may have to adjust your grip in order to change it. So keep in mind a couple of those things. The other thing, like you said about a live blade, if this had a real edge and I go quickly, where's that edge going? Right into my palm. So before you start manipulating it, you might want to use your thumb, roll it, then invert it. So now the spine of the blade is not cutting into your hand. So there's a couple of those things there that you can help practice using the weight of the blade and getting that feel for it.
So it's important to also have the feel and the weight of the blade, like you said, right? Because with the weight helps you use, centripetal force, where you can use that to help with the advantage of moving the blade. But once again, you have to really take into consideration the shape of the handles. Some handles that are curved will adjust. Now, when I'm doing the switch over here, it's harder because of the end of the blade, right? Are they going to get in the way as I'm doing? Like you said, longer handles are longer to manipulate. Shorter handles are much easier to do so.
And I also saw that you did two different angles. You had one that was up here, and you had one that was like a clock. That was really cool.
Yes.
I like the way you did that.
The reason for that is I work the clock system in Filipino martial arts, right? So in at least Marcaida Kali, I work that. So if I have a switch where, for the switch, I have a forward grip into a reverse grip, I'll work the different, I'll go from 1 to 7 from my point of view, from 1 to 7, from 11 to 5, from 3 to 9, 9 to 3. So I work all the angles because I'm not sure which of the angles will I be using the blade as I'm working this. Now, this is all play. This is not combat. This is simply me switching. And if you notice what I'm doing here, I'm constantly playing with edge out. For now, everything is edge out. And I'll slow it down. So everything is edge out to everything being edge in. Through everything being edge in. Through everything being edge in. And once again, edge in. The reason for that is the constant play and practice of my thumb to actually learn how to really manipulate. Once again, if I'm studying the blade and what allows me to do the switch online, I'm looking at the tools that make it happen.
So that's a little intro into single hand switching. How can we get into some of that double hand switching? Like if your arm gets trapped or pinned, how can you pass it over to your other hand?
So the key is there's so many ways to practice that, but the key is to get this knife to this knife. Now, what's the reason you would do that? Originally, I was taught the reason for strategy is that I start off with a forward grip. Now, when I switch, it's because I want to get into a reverse grip. From a reverse grip, I want to get into a forward grip, and so on and so forth. Now, sometimes if I get injured and I want a particular grip, I may switch to the same grip. I may switch to the same grip. So talking about that, how do you pass the blade from one to the other? So it's more like if I'm going to give you the blade, I already have this blade secured, right? So it's this blade that will release once this is secured. So I'm thinking about not this one receiving, but this one giving the blade first. Give, take. Give, take, give. You start off with that. Simple as that. Now, let's look at the things that can hinder the receiving and giving. The fingers. When I come out here, you'll see that if my thumb is locked in here, I make contact, and then now the thumb has to release so that it's safer to have that, right? The thumb is in here, locking it in for whatever grip. When it's there, once you make impact, it has to release for this thumb to receive. Now, if the thumb is what is inherently giving up and the fingers are giving up, then these fingers are the ones that also take it. For example, if I may show this, right? As the thumb is here, as it's given over here, notice this thumb, I'll do it this way, as it's being passed on, peels it and says, I gotcha. And as it passes on this way, this thumb saying, peels it and says, I gotcha. So the thumb play really is all about this motion. When you're thinking about grappling and holding wrist locks, it's the same thing that you're doing with the blade. It's how to peel the blade away so that we know it's secure. How to use your thumb from the top if you're peeling the blade from the top, or at the same time, how you can use the heel of your palm to receive the blade as you're giving it. It's all tactile. I peel it here to take the blade. If I'm on a reverse grip and I want to grab from a reverse grip, the thumb is peeling to get to the blade. If I want to somehow learn to use the grip from and the backside of the blade, I can also enter the blade this way. Backside of my hand to grab on. It's all based on leverage. Now, that's because I have a handle that does have a little bit of leverage from the tip. If I had a much smaller blade, that would be a different kind of switching that you would do, because you don't have that for grabbing. You don't have that to be able to pass it forward or back and forth.
Absolutely. I really liked what you said about that other one coming in from under and using the backside. To me, it kind of reminds me a lot of like a disarm in a sense.
Exactly. Exactly. You are basically disarming yourself. So a lot of that play is the way we train. I don't have a training partner all the time. So that is one of the reasons why when we're doing knife play on our own, it's really me learning how to disarm the blade. And now, of course, I'm learning the finger dexterity of all this, but it's really also the idea of learning how to peel the blade from yourself. Now, the hand switching later on, as you start to find out the different purposes of this, is because there's a lot of sleight of hand work coming out here. Is the blade on my left hand, or is it really on my right hand, or is it really on the left with this reverse grip, or on the right with a forward grip, or the left, or the right on the reverse grip? There's a lot of hand play in here because this is edge impact training. What is edge impact training with the knife switching? This is the edge. This is the impact with the elbow, with the edge. This is the impact with the right hand. This is the edge, impact, edge, impact, edge, impact, edge, impact, edge. That's the reason why in the play of this, it's because I could be grabbing into stabbing and grabbing into stabbing, or the blade stuck in there and pummeling it in. A lot of beautiful play of the art from Filipino martial arts knife training can be done. Is it necessarily effective? It's effectively keeping me happy. It's effectively keeping me entertained. It's effectively keeping me engaged in knife play. People go, is that real or is it not real? You're focused on using the knife to hurt people? See you in jail. I'll visit you when you're there. Or when you're 5 feet underground or 6 feet underground, I'll visit you there. It's not about that, folks. It's not about, is it effective? It's a knife. You don't need skill to hurt anyone. You don't need skill to stab. You already know that I'm getting paper cuts, right? It's about the play of the art. And this is what I'll say, at least, when we're talking about why all this edge play with knives and everything else. It's an art form and a discipline to practice that. Because I can control the way my body interacts with a tool. If I can control the way my mind says the body do this, and I can tell also my mind says, walk away. You don't need to stab anyone. Put the knife away. Your life is not in danger. Or run. We'll live for another day. I'm in control. So martial artists, by far, with the training and discipline, are the ones who usually don't get into altercations. And I'm proud of that as a martial artist.
Live to be a better person.
Always.
And you also said something really important to me that, like, when I've been doing construction and I'm like using a hammer, right? Let's say you need to claw out a nail. The manipulation that I use with a knife to flip it around is the same that I use on a tool. You extend that from a stick, and now I'm in the garden working a rake, right? I flip it over. It's that same extension of your body, and you become one with any tool that you pick up because your mind is the tool. Your hands are just
exactly. That's right. They always say, what's your favorite weapon? I am the weapon, so I'm my favorite. Your mind is their favorite thing, right? Everything else is a tool, just depending on how you use it. Now, the other ideas also of switching blades into different categories is because, once again, one of my teachers always says, make sure that when you're switching in combat, you don't switch in front of them. Because when you're in front and you're switching, they can hit it with a long-range weapon. So his training would always tell me, you switch away from the opponent, away from the opponent, away from the opponent, away. And the away is the reason we put in the elbow strike slash elbow strike slash elbow strike slash training that we do in Kali.
And that is awesome. Seeing you break it down slow makes it even more impressive because it's like you said, you're playing with it, you're having fun. But my teacher also said, every motion that you do should be an attack, right? So like you said, I'm going to go grab this. What is it? An eye rape. It's an elbow. Now I have the blade. Now I'm twisting to capture it,
Mhm.
because why? Blades and tools are meant to be felt, not seen. It's not for that Hollywood flash. It's for the
Mhm.
practicality and self-betterment. But if you have it there, you have those tools just in case, those extra skills just in case.
Yeah, and also it's the training, right? When you're doing this, right? When you see the switching and you turn your body as you're switching, you're turning your body as you're switching. For any reason, if somebody grabs your hand, right? They're grabbing your hand, you go with it, and there's your shot. So he may be trying to lock me as a disarm. So if I am doing it by myself, there's my counter. And if I'm coming back this way and they're going to drive my knife to whichever position, there's my counter as I'm moving. So I'm learning to move because they're focused on this tool. You want this and you're going to block it and drive me somewhere. I'll go with it as I'm hitting you. And then I switch as I'm hitting you. So all this motion of doing these motions here also teaches certain different motions of if you move, you roll with it and you move into a different thing, but constantly striking, hitting, switching with your body. It's like a lot of rolling going on, right?
I love it. It looks like a dance, baby. I like it.
It's,
It
it's a
is. It's the
flow.
art of movement.
Our art of movement, the path of least resistance, rolling with it, go with the flow. Same idea, except we're doing it with a blade. It's fun. It's basically the practice of a discipline that is a passion, but I'm playing with my tools. Why is it so important to play with the things that you love? Because you're spending time. A lot of times I may know technique, but if I don't play, if I don't touch it, that technique is knowledge without practice. It's during practice that you learn even more than what is the simple things being told to you. You got to put it into practice. You got to pressure test it and everything else. And there'll be some things that you learn on your own. I may not be able to pull it off. So I'll probably only do this technique strictly as play in a relaxed manner when there is no fear going on. But I know myself in fear, I'm going to hold on to this. I'm not going to give it up for whatever reason. But maybe there might be a time when actually I go, oh, yeah, I can do this and I can switch.
All right, we talked a little bit about the switching of the grips and the handles being key, but what about one of our favorite tools, the karambit? I mean, how the heck you get that thing out? Isn't it built for retention?
Exactly. It's built for retention. That's why I say you got to know how to use the karambit, that at any point, the karambit ring, your fingers should not go past the first two pieces right here. You should always have the ability to remove your finger at any point. Just hold it like a grip. Because then if it gets too deep, then the blade controls you. Now, on the same hand, it's easy to go from underhand to overhand. You have that simple flail that we always use, right? That I use at least, right? But what assists this, once again, are the things that allow it to do. I do a modified thumb flip. Thumb gets behind and pushes it out, and then I wrap around. Thumbs get behind and push it out. Because even when I'm doing this, I'm still getting the thumb out of the way on the spine so that I can flip it, right? The thumb is right there. The thumb ring goes off to the side, and I'm able to flip it, right? Or rather flail it, because it's really an impact strike, right? But I can impact strike with the thumb helping, or I can use momentum, right? And that's the reason. Now, switching from one hand to the other, that's why it's always important that at any point, if I'm using the karambit for whatever reason, I have the ability to always remove the finger, right? So if I can remove the finger, which I do here, bam, then I can take and switch to the other hand. Then, in so doing, right? It's always that ability to be able to transfer, take the finger off, and then switch. Now I'm switching particular grip, right? So I can rake this way. If I need to transfer it over this way, the same way that I would do the thumb, webbing of the thumb to release, I can do that. If I want to retain it, then I put the finger back on the ring. So there's so many reasons. And once again, it's all about finger distance. Watch on the karambit, because once again, the ring is about retention. That's when I move out here, I have the ability to release the finger. Now it's on this particular grip. Okay, it's important to be able to do that. That way you're never held hostage to the ring finger, but you also know that I can do this. I have retention, right? Because you can't do that with the other blades. So that's the beauty of the karambit.
If this is the first episode you stumbled upon, make sure to check out our previous episodes on the varieties of grips.
Well, folks, we hope that sharpened your mind, because this is Sharp Talk with sharp edges or training blades that are dull. The blades may be dull, but not your mind.
If you guys enjoyed this, please make sure to drop a like, share it with a friend who would also be interested, and subscribe to see more.